Hi, this is Laurie Yoon from Dutchy Branch. This is the post vlog for C2 Albatross classes, lesson 11. This week the students had to propose an online business and their goal was to try to get investment for their startup business. The three sections of their project were the actual business proposal, the investment capital, and I asked the students to create a Facebook webpage for advertisement as opposed to designing the actual website. So it worked pretty well. Having that Facebook template that I showed you in my pre-vlog, it looks like this, I think helped tremendously because it allowed for the students to understand the components that I wanted in their presentation. So a brand logo, some business information, status updates, different photos of their product or service.
Facebook helps spread our company to others and cooperate with others. Also, it increases relationships between workers and it makes best management of work. Our company uses SNS like Facebook, Kakao, Twitter, Cafe, and blog. These friends is the companies that we are having good relationships. These are firms, Costco, like Stock and Needles. Family is the company that we cooperate and get investments. And advertisement is we are advertising our family and friend companies' products. And in the wall, we did donation, and this is the start of our company, and this is cooperating companies.
However, even though I allowed them to use the template, there was some issue with timing where some of the groups didn't finish the Facebook webpage and it looked really undone. So rather they just presented that and then talked about what they would put in a Facebook website for advertising their own online business. I think the problem was my students in the previous classes are very used to writing their speech out first and then doing any PowerPoint presentation or other media component for their project. But for this project, even in the task sheet, I ordered it where I wanted them to do the creative element and then creating a speech afterwards, just kind of discussing what they put on the web page. But they were just used to the pattern of creating the speech first, so that's what they did. And afterwards, they ran out of time to put together all their information on the web page. If I were to do this in the future, I would make it mandatory for them to design that webpage first. I do think it'll be faster to make a speech too, because then they're just kind of explaining what's on that webpage and why. The second problem probably was because when I ran my class, it was on Children's Day, so for my elementary Albatross class, a lot of the students were missing, so my groups were a lot smaller than usual. Usually I'll have between 3 to 4 members per group, but this time I had 2 to 3 members per group, and therefore there was just too much to do. In the future, if that happens, I would really just start eliminating some of the tasks on those task sheets and make it a little bit more simple. Or just make the groups bigger. Another element that worked really nice for presentation was using Polaris Office, the bar graph or the pie chart for graphing out their costs. It was very easy to see where the group was going with their costs and not difficult or complicated to make, especially after you've practiced using it before. So my class has used that application in previous projects, so they knew how to do all of that and I didn't have to teach them from square one. A tip though, if you're going to get the students to talk about startup costs, putting it in a graph or a chart, they're going to have to figure out what portion of their budget would go to what element in their startup costs. So in my class, for the personal project that discussed startup costs, we definitely talked about the different areas where the online businesses would be spending money in order to make it a successful business, but we didn't really talk about proportion, how much of their budget would go to what type of cost. So I think in the brainstorm stage, I would in the future add maybe a media card or an extra question in that brainstorm stage to get the students thinking about, okay, how much would I spend on this part of my online business to start it up, and so on and so forth. And that way the students can better put it together in a graph. The other thing that I try to do with this lesson is for the students that take C1 and C2 classes, it was paired up so nicely because the week 11, lesson 11, C1 Albatross classes did a skills lesson where they talked about graphic design. So talking about color and contrast, lettering, juxtaposition of content, and things like this. So it actually worked really well to talk about that into their logo. Now, I actually had the C2 class first and then C1 class at the end of the week. It was switched, but it still worked because I brought a lot of that into the C2 class, and we had some discussion going so that when C1 came later in the week, they knew all about it. And yeah, it kind of worked really good that way. But basically, when they were doing the logos, getting the students to think about what color to pick and the meaning behind those colors and the type of font and any type of images they would put into their logo before they designed it, I think allowed them to explain the rationale behind their design a lot easier, and then it got them to understand the C1 lesson as well. That was my week. I hope everyone had a good time with lesson 11. Have a good one.